ISO 27001 2015 Information Security Management System specification. In this video, we are going to be going through the 10 most common questions with ISO 27001, answering the most common questions that we get here at Best Practice, the most common questions you'll probably find on Google. We're going to go through them in this live stream to help you guys and introduce you guys so that you can get a good understanding of all of the aspects of information security management and adding that into your risk management system for your organization. So if you are somebody who's been tasked with helping to develop, implement, and maintain the risk management system or the business management system for your organization, in this particular video, I'm going to be focusing in on the 10 most common questions of ISO 27001. I've got a hard copy of the standard right here in the studio with us, so I can go through that. I'm here for you guys live. This is a live stream video, and if you have got questions, you can answer that. I've got a dashboard. So we are live on LinkedIn and we're live on YouTube, and I've got a dashboard up there so I can see your comments. It's always really exciting for me to see where you guys are in the world and where you're watching from with your questions. So good morning, Stan. I can see you there on LinkedIn, so thanks for joining us. So any of you guys that are watching live on LinkedIn and that have just come on live on LinkedIn, then let me know in the comments. Looks like we just lost the thing behind you. So I've got Aaron and Luke here in the studio helping me with a couple of the questions and with the dashboards. So what I have got for you guys, if you do have questions, is I've got access to that dashboard, so please ask them. If you are watching this after the recording, so if you have just come on and you're watching after the recording, please comment and let me know, and I'm more than happy to go through all of those comments. I get notifications, and if you have got questions, so don't think that just because you're after the live stream that you'll miss out on getting an answer to your question. This is episode 4 of Ask Best Practice. So we are moving through and covering the 10 most common questions through a number of the episodes. So if you've missed out on the previous episodes around how different parts of your business management system can be adjusted, that is, how do you use your business management system to improve your customers' experience? How do you use your business management system to improve your sustainability? How do you use your business management system to help with staff safety? And today we're talking about information technology, security techniques, information security management systems requirements very specifically. So if you think about your organization's business plan and you think about all of the objectives and goals that the business has got, we also need to make sure that we've got a risk management system wrapped around that to help us execute on our organizational objectives, our organizational goals, and then also to help us with things that might come up over time. There we go. Thank you very much, Jacob. So the best part of Wednesday nights is the Best Practice live session. Awesome. I really appreciate that. I really appreciate your support. I'm here for you guys. So I'm glad it's more entertaining than reruns of Friends on Netflix or Stan. So look, I know I'm as good looking. In fact, I think I'm better looking than Jennifer Aniston anyway. So it's all good. So good to have you guys on board today, and hopefully I can help you with your questions. And Luke's there on the dashboard. So we'll get into the questions. Aaron's, this format that we've changed up for everybody just to give a bit more interaction. We've got Aaron here. He's got a set of questions. We've had a bit of a look through them. What we're doing is, if you have seen our YouTube channel over the last 48 hours, we're taking these live streams, we're taking out the questions, and we're splintering them and giving you small little snappy videos. If you are driving or you're commuting or you're doing some kind of travel or you do listen to podcasts, we've also been loading up the audio off these videos on the Kobi Simmat audio experience. From next week, we'll be up to episode 5. We're going to start moving a little bit deeper into your organization and organizational development and organizational improvement. We'll start touching on some of the soft skills, some of the recruitment related issues, the people related issues, and those kinds of things. So we'll go as we go. And so if you have got questions around, how to be a better manager, how to be a better influencer, how to internally sell projects, how to, help with change management, those kinds of things, we'll be doing a similar sort of thing with the top 10 most common questions. We'll launch with those, and then if you guys have got questions, I'm always happy to stop and answer those. So Puzzle Duck on YouTube, Hey, good to have you guys in Melbourne, out of lockdown finally, and able to move around. So I hope there's smiles on everyone's faces as we come into summertime here in the Southern Hemisphere. So good to have everybody on board. All right, Aaron, hit me with the first question.
First question, what is 27001?
Okay, first question. What is ISO 27001? It is an international standard. I have a copy of it here. This is ISO 27001 in the flesh. It's an international standard produced by the International Organization of Standardization that helps organizations to set up, to develop, implement, and maintain an information security management system. The terminology we're now using is a cyber security management system. So you can use it to set up and maintain an information security management system for, unique intellectual property or patent information or commercial in confidence information. But the corporate trend in terms of terminology at the moment is a cyber security management system. So to protect our information and manage this very quickly emerging issue of cybersecurity in organizations. So it's the international standard. It's a great framework. I've been working with ISO standards since 1994 for a very long time. All of the different versions of the standards, and the new format of these standards is the best they've ever been, the easiest to follow and the simplest to implement to help you manage risks in your organization. So for 27001, it is the standard that you can use to audit against, and it's going to help your organization to implement a cybersecurity management system. I've got a couple of people that have come online from the Philippines, so lovely to have you guys on board today. So great global audience. I love hearing where you guys are watching from. So if you have come on, if you've just joined us on LinkedIn, today we're talking about cybersecurity in your organization, and we're talking about how you can implement a cybersecurity management system and the points there, the top 10 most common questions around implementing a system to manage cybersecurity in your organization. So, okay, Aaron, question 2.
What does it mean to be ISO 27001 certified?
Okay, so question is, what does it mean to be ISO 27001 certified? So here at Best Practice, one of our business divisions has a team of best practice assessors, and those people go out on a routine basis, maybe a quarterly, 6 monthly or 12 monthly basis, and see clients that have signed up to be certified. So there's a sort of a cut-off version of our best practice certification logo there that people can go through. They can implement and maintain and improve a management system that follows this framework. It attaches to the business plan. They can then apply to have a certification, and one of our best practice assessors will come out and will at the moment jump on a Zoom or a Google Hangout or a FaceTime call and work with you to work through and get you to show us your cybersecurity management system. And then if they're happy that your system meets all the requirements of the standard, they'll issue a certification. Then you can promote, like using this logo, you can promote that you are certified. In fact, actually, it's just a bit out of shot, but down the bottom here on the banner is our information security certification. Looks very similar to quality, safety, environment. So these are the certification programs. So there are hundreds and hundreds and thousands of vehicles running around all over the world, and people's business cards and websites with these logos on them. And those are the international best practice marks for these management systems. So that's what it means to be ISO 27001 certified. Next question, Aaron.
What are the ISO 27001 requirements?
Okay, one of the third most common questions that gets asked on Google and also of us here at Best Practice is, what are the requirements? Well, the requirements are here in the standard. It's not a very big document. You can see in its printed form, it's not huge. What we can go to is we can go to the contents page, which is here, which asks what the requirements are. So it basically says there's a requirement to understand the context of your organization. There's a requirement to have leadership commitment and have leadership sets and policies, and leadership create organizational roles and responsibilities. There's a requirement to do planning around cybersecurity and planning, thinking about risks, thinking about opportunities, thinking about objectives and goals, and doing some planning. There's a requirement to put some resources in place. So resources, training, awareness, communications, some documented information in place. There's a requirement to do some doing. There's a requirement to operate your business and to be checking in on how, the controls you put in place for the risks you identified, are they being implemented? There's a requirement here to monitor your performance. Like any good weight loss program, getting on the scales and doing some measurements to see how you're tracking is important. And these standards are no different. They talk about performance evaluation. And in fact, if you look at our logos here at Best Practice, they are a performance over time graph, because we're trying to encourage you to have like triple bottom line reporting or quadruple or 10-point bottom line reporting, so that you've got, a dashboard, and, what in the words of the great Peter Drucker, what gets watched gets managed. So there's a requirement there to have monitoring and measurement, analysis and evaluation, do some internal audits, do some strategic planning and have management reviews. And there's obviously a requirement there to have improvement and do corrective and preventative action and improvements there. So those are the ISO 27001 requirements. What's involved, there are 10 sections to the standard, and each of the ISO standards for management systems all have those 10 sections. Now they all follow a similar format. Okay, next question.
Why is ISO 27001 important?
That's a great question. Why is ISO 27001 important? I've seen in my career lots of people try to sort of implement systems and process in organizations, but they don't follow any framework, and it can get out of control. So in project management, we often talk about scope creep. And I think 27001's most important benefit is it puts walls around. It kind of puts a limited list of things to do around cybersecurity in your organization. Yes, it's very open and performance-based, but I think it can give senior management and boards and executives that are trying to budget for investments some confidence that this thing's not going to get out of control in terms of the project and the development, and the overhead cost is not going to get out of control. And we can sort of refine exactly what the investment's going to be of people and time and money. So I think the most important benefit of 27001 is it puts limits on that, as do any of these standards. So it gives you the recipe to follow to implement a robust system of managing cybersecurity in your organization. I think the next thing is 27001. Why it's important is it's an international benchmark. So if you're comparing like companies in your supply chain or suppliers in your supply chain, then basically you can know that they've all got similar systems in place. Not exactly the same, because everyone's interpretation is going to be a little bit different. But obviously, you get some similarities, and it allows comparison. If you are competing with competitors, there's going to be some similarities, so the playing field is equal. Could you just scroll on those LinkedIn comments for me? That'd be lovely. Okay. If you have got questions as I'm going, Stan, I see you've moved from LinkedIn to YouTube. Well done for that. How important do you think is it to have a system to monitor current cybersecurity threats, warnings from JSC, etc.? And also, do you need to establish internal, do you need to establish internal penetration and phishing exercises? Okay, 2 questions there from Stan on the dashboard on YouTube. How important is it to have a system to monitor current cybersecurity threats? It's very important. Like any good compliance management system, a lot of the legislative jurisdictions around the world, governments around the world, are starting to put policies and then laws in place that because you can do a lot of damage running an organization, and let's talk about business at this point in time, that you can do damage because you've got potentially other people's information, be it personal information, financial information, or commercial in confidence information, and a small part of that is to be monitoring the different types of threats and issues. It is no different to safety. It's knowing about the damage that chemicals can do to your people. It's important to be constantly monitoring and learning the new cybersecurity threats and damage that can happen to your people and your information. So, it's good corporate citizenship. It's good due diligence. And we are way past a time in history when we could just be, play vague and naive. You do need to establish systems to be monitoring a dashboard. I think monitoring news outlets is important, and monitoring any legislative jurisdictions, so any government departments that publish regular information about scams and threats and those kinds of things that are being promoted out there. So certainly here in Australia, the Signals Directorate produces information and puts it out there to tell people the kinds of threats and things that are happening from a cybersecurity perspective. So I think it is important. If you don't have that in your country, then have a look at what's happening here in Australia, because the financial industries and government industries are promoting the kinds of things that criminals are perpetrating, perpetrators and what they're doing. So you could look here if you haven't got that kind of information and research in your organisation. Okay, I see a comment there from Trent Thomas. I'm not sure what that one's about with ISO 14001, but I'm more than happy to get on talk about that if you have a specific question. Otherwise, it's just a timestamp, I guess. So welcome aboard, everybody. So if anyone's got any questions, if you do need assistance, more than happy to answer them. Let me get to Stan Wall's second question there. Do you need to establish internal penetration testing and phishing exercises? Yes, you do, if you have areas that are at risk. So if you have information, private information or commercial information or sensitive information that is in a place where it needs to be protected and locked, it's no different to having personal records in a filing cabinet, in an old paper-based filing cabinet in an office. You know, what testing and checking do you do to make sure no one can get in there? You walk past and you check the door's locked. So internal penetration and phishing testing in an organization is checking your doors are locked, checking that no one can get in, checking that the lock's not easily picked. When I say the lock's not easily picked, that passwords aren't easily figured out. So, you know, making sure that the organization doesn't use password 1 exclamation mark, for example, or 1 2 3 4 5, those kinds of passwords. And so, you know, doing some basic internal testing is important, and that can be done with training and awareness. And then increasingly there are cybersecurity consultants that can come in and train your people in terms of how to do some of that stuff yourself. And then there's the more in-depth stuff. If you're running apps or using cloud-based systems, how do you make sure the doors are locked? So you can look into that. So yes, the answer to that question is yes, but that can be done with external help. That's one of the controls that we will talk about in the back of ISO 27001. Another question there. This is excellent. I really appreciate this. We'll get to more of the Google questions and the top 10 questions shortly. So you're getting some bonus stuff. So Reza, I hope I'm saying your name correctly there on LinkedIn, your question from Perth on LinkedIn. How do we integrate ISO 27001 with a health, safety, environment, quality ISO series? It's really easy. If you have a risk identification, risk assessment, risk planning process, then it's about educating people on the kinds of risks with cybersecurity and information security. Then you can use that same risk planning framework, the same controls. Obviously, there's going to sometimes be different people from the organization involved, so you wouldn't necessarily have an on-site safety coordinator involved in this, but certainly from a high-level management system perspective, really easy. Use your risk planning process, use your internal auditing process, use your management review process, use your strategic planning and objectives process, those sort of core elements of your management system. You can pull those in and you can have subject matter experts come in and talk about information security. So if you have got a CIO or a head of IT, that's a good starting point, and then starting to educate yourself on some of the risks that need to be involved. Now, Reza, because you're a health, safety, environment expert, specialist in your organization, I just want to draw your attention, and I'll get to this in one of the later questions, but I want to draw your attention to the back of the standard, this annex. This standard is different and does differentiate itself from others in that it has some more prescriptive controls that have to be implemented. And in fact, there's 114 controls. So because this is a new area and it's growing, it's a really great way to help people like you and I who come from the health, safety, environment, or business management system side of things. It's a really great way to sort of table that with your executive team and say, here's a list of the controls that must be implemented, and we can follow that intent. So I hope that helps you. There's a second question there on YouTube. Another question on YouTube. This is excellent. Keep asking the questions, guys. Keep them coming. So Nancy on YouTube, is there an official checklist audit for 27001 reflecting the requirements so that one could cross-reference? 100%. We have a great checklist available for free to download on our website at Best Practice. If Vanessa's listening, she will post the link to that checklist in the comments there, so you can click on that link directly in the comments. So we'll get that before the end of this live stream. We'll get you a link to that checklist, but that's free to download. In fact, we've had something like, it's well over 7,000 or 8,000 people download that checklist from our website. There's now over 14,000 people in our online training academy who have been purchasing courses. There's also a great ISO 27001 online course. That's a good introductory course for us, for people like us that are learning this, and you guys that are learning this and starting to embark on the journey of learning about cybersecurity and 27001 and helping your organization to manage that issue. We've got that great course that's online. For a couple of $100, you can grab that course, and Manny, our presenter of that course, will take you through the steps of understanding how to implement that system. Okay, so I think I've got Jacob, biggest mistakes you've seen with 27001 implementation. I've seen heaps. Look, I think the biggest mistake with 27001 implementation, and literally at 5:30 a.m. this morning, I'm having a conversation with a client that's doing a lot of work to prepare for an audit and implement that system instead of like waiting for the coach to come and help with the focus areas. So they're kind of guessing what they should be working on. And I think the biggest implementation mistake that a lot of organizations make is focusing on writing too many policies up front and doing less of the risk management. I think it's important to start to learn some of the cybersecurity risks and focus on controlling those risks first than embarking on a big journey of writing lots of policies and procedures. And I see way too much time and money wasted writing policies and procedures. I think that getting in and doing some planning, bringing some awareness to the senior leadership team, and then filtering that down through the organization. And then I think doing some monitoring and measurement, and I think doing management review. I think those are the best practices, pun intended, of implementing this standard. And I think, the biggest mistake that I see people making is in any of these projects is racing off and writing lots of documents, saying they need templates, saying they need, written systems and milk crates, boxes and boxes full of policy and procedure. We want to try and avoid that. We want to just get into this really good, quarterly strategic planning, set goals, work on things, come back, so that we can get some, we can start tracking our performance, because I cannot put my hand on my heart and say that good quality policies and procedures will help you control your risks. I can put my hand on my heart and say that well-trained, competent, motivated people will help you control your risks. So a focus on training people, motivating people, having people understand the issues is going to help. That's going to be the best way to control your risks. So just because we've got something written in a policy and then we can use it later on to beat someone with it, you roll up the policy, you get it rolled up and you say, like this, let me try and roll it up, and we turn it into a stick and we beat people with it. We say, you didn't follow the policy. That doesn't help anybody. It's about being proactive, as you guys know. So, hey, Andrew, good to have you back on LinkedIn. Hello in Sydney. So, Jacob, I hope that's answered your question. Okay, so we'll get that checklist. Subis, I'll get to your question shortly because I want to give Aaron a chance to ask a question. I'll come to Subis. I'll come back to your question there on LinkedIn. Next question, Aaron.
How can I prepare for a ISO 27001 audit?
Okay, the question is, how can I prepare for an ISO 27001 audit? That's a good question. Doing some of those things that I just talked about. If you're preparing for an ISO 27001 certification or implementing the system, the first thing that you can do is do management review. I always say that's the first thing that you can do, because that draws in leadership and it starts to think about business planning, strategic planning, and thinking about what your goals are. There's 4 questions to ask. In thinking about the next 3 months, what does success look like from a cybersecurity perspective? In thinking about the last 3 months, what went wrong from a cybersecurity perspective? In thinking about the next 3 months, what could go wrong from a cybersecurity perspective? And then the final question is, what are we doing about that? I'll give you a case study. In the factory next door, that's one of our family businesses, we have a whole bunch of really expensive machines that do a lot of work and we rely on, that are connected to the internet. We've got someone trying to hack that factory and install ransomware on that equipment so that we can't use it. Now, manually we can pull out all the computer components and put in new computer components, so the ransomware is not going to cause a big problem for us. We can probably do that, in a 24-hour period, but it will stop our machines for 24 hours. And some of those machines, they create hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of revenue per day that pays everybody's salary and wages and runs that business. So we want to be starting to think about, what we need to do about that. So in terms of implementing, management review first, starting to think about a dashboard. And I think the third thing that you can do in terms of preparing for an assessment and getting organized is go to the controls at the back of the standard, the 114 controls, read those, learn those, and understand what you need to implement, because it's quite prescriptive. And I think for the level of sophistication of this market at the moment, for the cybersecurity market, is there's hundreds of organizations that are kind of like, I don't know what to do. We probably need to think about it. Nothing's happened. We haven't had an accident or an incident. We haven't had a cybersecurity accident or incident. So we kind of don't need to do anything about it yet. I think having the organization learn and start to understand those controls is going to give you some insights into the kinds of things that can go wrong. And so you can get started with there. I think that's the best way to prepare for a 27001 audit. Okay, next question.
Who needs ISO 27001?
Everyone. The question is, who needs ISO 27001? I think my answer to that question is right now, because cybersecurity is such an important issue, I can't think of a company or organization that shouldn't have or doesn't need a information security management system. Now, I do know that in the past people will say, but my organization is really small and, this thing is really big. It's like, well, it's kind of like, well, you need to think about what the risks are. What risk are you taking by not locking the doors to your house? And so I think that I draw a lot of similarities to, how confident are you where you are to live and where you live as to not locking the front door of your house or not locking your car at any point in time. Doesn't matter where your organization goes, is it locked? And I think that, who can get in and who can get out. And if it's okay, there's nothing really in there that's important and people can come and go as they want, then you really want to start to think, okay, well, where's the lock? Do you have a lock on your bank account? Do you have a username and password on your bank account and you use online banking? So, it really comes down to what can be stolen from you, what can be taken from you, what can people come in and damage and come in and make a mess. And so, it's not always vexatious. The activities that happen are not always vexatious. I was traveling in Alaska a number of years ago, and a bear got into a shop and took all the t-shirts off the shelves and made a nest inside a shop during winter, and it was hibernating inside the shop. The shop was closed for a couple of months. And so the bear got in because the door wasn't locked. The bear literally walked up, turned the doorknob, pushed open the door because it was in the boonies in Alaska. The door wasn't locked, didn't force its way in, just walked in the door, literally shut the door and made a nest in all the t-shirts. Now, in terms of that wasn't somebody being vexatious, nothing was stolen. There was a sale after that event. All the t-shirts were being promoted as, they're secondhand, barely worn. I think was, that's obviously entertaining. But, when you think about your information security information that you've got, someone could just accidentally wander in and corrupt all of your data. So it's about thinking about what needs to be protected, who can access it, where can they access it, how do we stop people that shouldn't access it, accessing it. So hopefully that helps. So I think who needs 27001 right now? I think all organizations should be making an attempt to understand this framework and think about how this framework applies to their business plan. Thanks, Aaron. What's the next one?
How much does it cost to implement ISO 27001?
Great question. This has come up in the last 3 episodes of Ask Best Practice. What does it cost to implement ISO 27001? We have a great online calculator. So if you want a very specific cost that's a little bit specific but generic, you can jump onto the online calculator on the bestpractice.biz website to get a cost. The cost, when we're calculating the cost for an ISO 27001 certification, there's 2 parts to the cost. There's the internal cost, there's you guys managing it, and then there's the external audit and certification cost. And so you guys can kind of figure out the resources that you need, and maybe I can help you with that. If you want to ever get on a Zoom call and I can talk to you about, what resources you need in your organization for this project, over the next 12 to 18 months, I can give you some guidance and advice on that. Always happy to help you understand, how to resource it internally in your organization. Do you employ people? Do you get consultants? Do you outsource it? I can always talk to you about that. And then from certification perspective, the cost is factored on your level of risk in your organization, the level of complexity of your information management systems. Now, how much of it's hard copy, how much of it's soft copy, how much of it's in the cloud, how much of it's on a server, how many people have access to it. Then there's some industries, then there's some levels of threat. Obviously, some kinds of information are more valuable than others. We do that risk assessment. That gives us some scope around how much time we should spend auditing and surveying your systems, and then we can calculate a cost. So we've got a calculator that gives you a really rudimentary price or cost for all of the certifications in one hit as a monthly fee. That's available on the bestpractice.biz website. Thanks, Aaron. Next question, and then I'll get to Subas's question.
What are the 14 domains of ISO 27001?
Okay, there's a really common question that we've seen on Google, which comes up, which is what are the 14 domains of ISO 27001? In the old version of the standard, there was 11 domains. In the new version of the standard, there's 14 domains. I want to just stop everybody right now and say, forget about that. Stop thinking about the 14 domains. I want you to just worry about the 10 sections of the standard, and I want you to worry about the 114 controls at the back of the standard, and forget this concept of domains. The idea of domains talks about, areas of management. And so what it starts to talk about, and I'll just give you a couple of examples because I've got some notes here, it kind of talks about, let me just quickly come back here to this link that I had open, which was, it's talking about, security improvements, and it's talking about company security policy and asset management and physical and environmental security and access control and security incident management and compliance. It kind of gives you, headings, if you like. So, what is generally, how do we treat company security generally? How do we treat asset management? How do we treat physical environmental security? How do we treat access control? How do we treat compliance, for example? So those kinds of things that I want you to be thinking about, sort of broader topics, in the context of the business, but just focus on implementing the system, and then focus on your controls. And then if you need more information on the domains, then you can say, okay, well, what are the risks in company security policy? What are the risks in asset management? What are the risks in physical environmental security? It sort of gives you subject matter areas. What are the risks in access control? What are the risks in security incident management? What are the risks in compliance? And let's make sure our risk management system deals with those issues as we go. Okay, let me get to Subas, your question there on LinkedIn. What's the biggest challenge in implementing and integrating in any organization? The biggest challenge is always people. The biggest challenge is always getting buy-in from people and getting people to understand that this is something that needs to manage. In sales, we talk about elevating pain. Humans are designed to keep themselves safe and not get hurt. And so humans won't do anything unless they're uncomfortable. And so what the biggest challenge is with people is actually getting them to be uncomfortable with this and getting them to act on that, and then showing them how to solve it. And so in terms of involvement, how we can think about that, we obviously don't want to manipulate people, but if we can excite and motivate people to actually treat and deal with this issue, we're going to be far more effective. But the biggest challenge is always people. Often, one of the most common questions I get on our YouTube channel and here at Best Practice is, how do I get top management involved, because they won't buy into it? And that question's got really two responses. One is, have you got empathy for them, and do you understand all the things they're managing? Because they may have buy-in, because the buy-in might be that they're giving you a salary and a wage to manage this issue, and they're like, I don't want to know about it. The money's allocated, it's come out of the budget, it's being spent on your position, go do your job. So that's it. I think the first thing is about having empathy, and then the second thing is to get them to treat the issues seriously. And you've got to be thinking about your level of influence and motivation in your organization. And so that's why I get on and we do videos about how to internally influence and how to be motivating and how to be positive and how to grow in your career and how to be influential and how to do change management. So I have got those videos coming up in the next couple of weeks. We're going to circle back to some of that stuff. So I think the biggest challenge is, how can you be more influential in your organization to get good involvement of people? And things like my body language and my energy and the things I'm talking about, I'm influencing you, and it's embracing some of those principles to get people on board with what's happening. So that's super. So I hope that's helped you. The biggest challenge is definitely getting people involved at different levels in the organization and getting them on board. How are we going, Aaron? A couple more questions?
2 more.
Excellent. Go ahead.
Is ISO 27001 applicable to all industries?
Okay, great question. Is ISO 27001 applicable to all industries? The answer to that question is absolutely yes. Most industries, and we're talking about businesses, so let's put the context on business. Yes, it's applicable to all industries. It's easily used in all industries. If you are struggling to understand how you can apply it to your industry, please reach out to me. I'm more than happy to have a free Zoom call with you, 15 minutes, 30 minutes, to just talk about your industry, give you some ideas about how to pitch it in your company, or give you some understanding. I never want these kinds of questions to be a blockage for you. But yes, it's a really simple risk management framework. So all businesses should have a business plan. Doesn't matter if you're charity, not-for-profit, or highly commercial. You should have a business plan, and you should be thinking about strategic planning. You should be managing your organization on a quarterly basis. And just, if you're not doing that very well, that's okay. You will do it eventually. You're not doing it well yet. I want you guys to be in a growth mindset. And if you need help with understanding the different kinds of information that that you can manage for your industry, then I can definitely help you there. Okay, one more question then. I think Jacob's got a question there, and we'll comment on that one. Okay, last one.
What are the benefits of ISO 27001?
The benefits of what? Good question. What are the benefits of ISO 27001? If you are an organization who is looking to strategically manage your cybersecurity, if you are an organization who wants to be a leader in your industry with management of risk, if you are an organization that wants to avoid any negative publicity from a cybersecurity breach, if you're an organization who wants to avoid unnecessary cost of fixing a cybersecurity breach, if you're an organization who is looking to have people that are empowered and don't feel violated that their data got breached, if you're an organization who wants to look after your customer information, if you're an organization who really wants to be strategic and future thinking about how you manage these issues, I think you can see where I'm going with that. Those are all the benefits of ISO 27001, that you can look after your people, that you can strategically manage your risks, that you can ensure that your customers don't feel violated because their data hasn't been lost, that your staff don't feel violated, that your information's protected, that you've got your commercial, you hold on to your commercial differentiators and your competitive advantage. Those are all the benefits of having an ISO 27001 management system in place. And my favorite one is giving your customers confidence that you're managing information security in your organization and in your industry, and that you are the benchmarked, best practice, certified supplier to be bringing that stuff to you. So those would be the roundup of the benefits. Now, thanks very much, Aaron. Okay, let me get to Jacob's question there. I'm just going to Google that just to get a quick, so my head's a bit tangled at the moment. And so Jacob, your question is, okay, let me go. Okay, so do I think that PAS 99 integrated management systems will be integrated with 27001 in the future? PAS 99 is a British product, and I think just looking into the future, Jacob, that probably not, because the world is looking more to look, if BSI and the British standards do a good job of promoting that and pushing it up into 27001, that may well be the case, but I think it's unlikely, because there has been, over the last 20 years, specifically the last 10, a shift away from things like anecdotal standards and systems in small jurisdictions, and to this more ISO standard. And the Brits don't have a lot of leverage right now in that global space. They're part of, it's very democratic, this process of coming up with these systems and processes. So I think what will happen is the intent of PAS 99 will follow through in a revision of the standard. And so you will see if there are conflicting intents of the different parts. PAS 99 is just an integrated management system framework and a way of approaching it. And so what's the intent of each section? I think if there are gaps and if it can add any value, you will see a strengthening of the intent. But that will come from some analysis. So what happens is, as a assessment body where we send out people doing assessments and audits all of the time, we're asked to report about once every 18 months to 2 years on the effectiveness and any trends analysis around where organizations are struggling with different parts of the standards. And if it comes back that there's a particular area where people are commonly failing, then we'll report that back. And that may be that they'll look outside and they'll say, oh, okay, well, PAS 99 does this really well. Let's bring in, let's strengthen the intent of that part of the standard. But we're definitely moving away from those kinds of standards. So I would say probably not integrated in the future. That just thinking about the past and how the different systems have worked, and then the future. Australia had a great Australian standard for occupational health and safety, and then ISO 45001 was developed, and some of the principles of 4801 were left out of 45001. And so I think that that's just an example of trying to find like common ground that is applied globally, and also dealing with the politics and the egos of the guys that are involved in development of these standards. So I'd say keep using it, but probably not It's a good system. Keep using it for guidance. And if you're comfortable with that and it helps you to easily implement, then keep using it. So Jacob, I hope that helped to answer your question. Are there any more questions? Look, it's been really good for me to have the question system going. This new version of Ask Best Practice is going really well. This has been episode number 4. How are we going for time? We're at about the 45-minute mark, I think, 44 minutes, something like that. Thursdays, we like to keep them short and sweet. I'm here to answer your questions. I would like to do a bit of a survey in the context of change management, management systems, helping you guys to be more effective in implementing your systems and drive your business performance. I'm interested to know what other content you would like my assistance with, and I'm more than happy to get on. I will do an episode next week. We're going to do 2 episodes next week of Ask Best Practice again. I'm going to do an open forum. So I'm going to cover any question. I can cover stuff about marketing. I can cover stuff about sales. I can cover stuff about systems and business systems in the middle. I can talk about finance. So if you've got an organization that needs help with any of these elements and you want me to talk about that and give you some introductory stuff, don't forget I'm a CEO and I'm running a large organization and a number of large organizations as part of this. So if you want to grow and develop as a general manager, a CEO, start moving up the ranks, understand what to do, I'm going to be doing a session in a couple of weeks, like what are the 10 most common questions with an MBA or a Masters of Business Administration, and what does a real life MBA look like? I will cover that for you guys so you can understand that, and adding in some of those things. So those kinds of ideas, I've been spitballing some ideas out there, and I'll bring those things through in Ask Best Practice. But I want you guys to let me know. I want you to think about these 4 questions or these 3 questions for you personally. For you guys personally that are watching right now, in thinking about the next 3 months, so between now and the end of January, what does success look like? What is a very specific goal in your personal life or your professional life that you want to achieve by the end of January? What's a very specific goal? What's one thing that you want to do? I'll tell you about mine. I want to reschedule my diary so that I am spending at least half of 1 business day per week reading. I've got all these books. I want to do more reading. I already do a lot. I want to do more reading. So I'm going to be allocating business time in my calendar where no one can book meetings, no one can talk to me, where I'm going to be actually going through and analyzing more of the books that we have here in our library. So that's a personal goal for me, that by January, the end of January, that I'm achieving that every single week. I do obviously work a lot. One small personal goal that was set yesterday was to get the school holidays. So I've got a 9-year-old son. The school holidays next year, I've blocked those out. So I'm going to be taking that time off next year and having the school holidays off, and giving that time to my son before he goes to high school. So I've put that in my calendar. I haven't achieved that goal yet, but in thinking about the next 12 months, success for me will be that I have actually had school holidays as a holiday in 2021. So I can spend some more time with my 9-year-old son. So there's those kinds of things. So I want to ask you that question. What is a personal goal that you want to achieve by the end of January? What's a professional goal that you want to achieve by the end of January? Now, if there's things that I can talk about and teach you guys on Ask Best Practice in maybe episode 6 or 7 or 8, we're planning ahead, then please email me. If you want to send a personal email into me, it's kobi@bestpractice.biz. That's my personal email address, kobi@bestpractice.biz. Send me in that personal email. I'm more than happy to ask the anonymous question and answer the anonymous question with my recommendations to help you guys with your professional development and personal development in the future. So if this has been a really useful and valuable video, I'd appreciate you hitting the like button there on YouTube or hitting the like button there on LinkedIn. Luke's going to show you how to do that. He's going to smash that like button for us right now. If this has been useful, let me know in the comments. In the comments on LinkedIn or in the comments on Facebook or in the comments on YouTube right now, let me know the best part of this presentation. What was the most valuable part of this presentation that has helped you? What's the takeaway? When we talk about the learning pyramid, and we talk about the learning pyramid a lot here at Best Practice, you guys will learn the most from this by going away and talking to other people. But the best way to embed this information is to go away and talk to other people in your organization about this issue. The more you talk about it, the more you do the teaching. Take what I've taught you and disseminate it, the more you're going to learn, and then you're going to have more courage and confidence to implement these principles from us here at Best Practice. So what I want to know from you is what was really valuable? What was the best part of this presentation? What was the takeaway? What was an answer that I gave that was useful? I'd appreciate that in the comments if you can comment. If it was something that was really useful, hit that like button. If you are watching after the recording, please still comment, because I do read all of the comments on all of these videos. If you're coming on, I know it's the middle of the night in some parts of the world, and I know this is the episode 4 of Us Best Practice is even better than reruns of Friends on Netflix. So if you did really enjoy this, let me know where you're watching from, that you did really enjoy it, and in a couple of episodes time, we're going to get on. I'm going to answer your questions around how I can help you with professional development in your career between now and the end of January. And we're going to do more of that. So you ask the questions, I've got the answers. If you don't see us out and about on Instagram, if you haven't followed me already on Instagram, it's at Kobi Simmat on Instagram. The team are doing a great job curating some of the great content, what's going on behind the scenes with everything that's happening here at Best Practice. So if you don't see me on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, TikTok, or any of the other platforms in the next week, you guys, you know how this goes, right? You guys will all see me right here next time on Best Practice TV. Bye for now.